Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk. This is an insider's guide to real estate life and the pursuit of happiness, presented by the Yes Team Realtors. Folks, this program absolutely fantastic because we have a good friend of the program, Quinton Beckham, on the very near horizon. Judah Wickower is our director, the studio cam. If you could, my friend, Jay Dubs, and we show this man, the executive producer. The one, the only, the distinguished gentleman, Keith Smith, whose beautiful 7/8 Jonas Smith is boarding a train as we speak.
No, not quite yet. Probably in about another 30 minutes.
T-minus 8 hours and change.
There you go.
Till you see Yona.
Got a smile on my face.
I can tell.
Well, I missed the heck out of her.
How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited. I got the house clean, so we're good. I was frantically doing that this morning. Made sure the laundry room was clean.
Do you get it messy?
Nah, not really.
Yeah.
No, to be honest.
You're probably chilling like 2 rooms, right?
Well, now you mention it, yeah, 2 rooms.
Yeah, I'm pretty much used 2 rooms in my house too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe more than that. I won't get too descriptive. But
Yeah,
maybe,
I don't need to know which rooms
Maybe
those
more.
are.
Let's say 3, or let's say 2.5.
And we'll let the viewers fill in the details.
The half thing.
So Quinton Beckham,
Yeah.
for a lot of numbers, for a State of the Union, for a reflection on 2020.
Well, you know, State of the Union is a great way of putting it. State of Union of 2020, you know, as CAAR president, and I think the last quarter of 2020, go over some numbers. I'm just interested in hearing his take, and then moving forward. And then, you know, the second half of the show, this is kind of our last big push for the land trust and the telethon we're going to do. And I think we're going to tackle a couple of questions that came on the feed and see what kind of information or questions come in on the feed during the conversation. So I'm excited about it, and maybe if we can talk Quinton on, he might stay on for that second half of that conversation.
Would love it if he does. To answer Keith Smith's question at the start of the show, the network has expanded by 3x. We've updated our game. We've frankly put more resources and capital into the network, and we are now able to go from 5 live social media channels for the show to 15, which dramatically impacts the reach of the show. So if you're now watching or listening on Twitter, on Periscope, on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, if you're Bluetoothing through Spotify, Apple Podcast, or iTunes, or if you catch the show on demand on ilovecville.com, give us the questions. He loves the 3-way dialogue.
Absolutely. That's I think is the secret sauce of the show. But Periscope, that's something new.
Periscope is is essentially the long video component of Twitter. And it's Twitter has a tremendous amount of people that are loyal only to that platform.
Sure.
So us being able to penetrate that space with this localized content is going to really amplify reach.
So excuse me, folks, I'm learning here.
Yeah.
So
basically what I'm doing is the equation for success in any business for what I do is this. If you increase brand awareness, what happens?
I'm going to sneeze.
Okay. If you increase brand awareness, my friend Keith is going to sneeze.
He's going to sneeze.
Get a close up.
Hold on a second.
Strawberry.
Strawberry. Look at the light bulb. So is that what that works?
Yeah, I look at the lights.
Do you really?
And I look at the lights that say strawberries.
You know, I've known you for a long time. I think you do walk around normally like this going,
But look at those heavy-duty light bulbs up there.
Yeah. So it's gone.
Yeah. Okay, so it worked.
Totally worked. Look at this. I'm learning nothing but great things.
You look at the lights that say strawberry.
Strawberry, sure, whatever. and then I'm going to learn some stuff from Quinton. So he's texting me. He goes, "Come on, fellas, let's get going."
If you increase brand awareness, you're going to get more customers. It's going to lead to incremental revenue.
Sure, absolutely. It just amazes me how the growth of what we're doing, what you're doing on that. So, you know, bottom line is we can, my little pea brain, we can simultaneously stream this to up to 15 somethings.
Platforms. Michael Plecker, I love watching Keith learn something new. Welcome Richmond, Northern Virginia, Lynchburg, and Fredericksburg to the broadcast. You want to get QB on the line?
I think that's what we're going to do, no? I'm ready. I'm excited to see what he's wearing.
Okay. I'm going with the burgundy or Merlot jacket that he got from Alton Lane.
Yeah, he's got another one, though.
Oh, we got another one.
Oh, yeah, but I don't know if it came in yet.
QB updated the wardrobe. I thought it was going to be the burgundy jacket from Alton Lane that is so sharp. Quinton, what do you got there?
Is he drinking?
Today is my shirt with all of these sporting things on it so that I look outdoorsy.
Look, this is what we're going to do. Quinton Beckham we have the president of CAAR. He's a VIP here. Why don't you walk the red carpet?
Really?
I'll be the Ryan Seacrest. Quinton Beckham, what are you wearing today on the red carpet?
I have my shirt that says "For the Love of Real Estate."
Look at this. I love it.
That's the t-shirt, "For the Love of Real Estate." And then this has what are those things called?
I don't know.
Canoes and other things I see people use on video.
I have no idea. Is it like golf clubs and stuff like that?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, let's start this off again. Good morning, Mr. Beckham.
Good morning, Quinton Beckham.
How are you today, sir? Because it went downhill real fast with the whole shirt thing. I was betting you would have wore the jacket, but
I like his shirt. It says "I love real estate."
Oh, that I like. I just can't figure out the shirt that's over it. But we'll just move on from that. So do us a favor, please, Mr. Beckham. For the one or two people who are watching this that may not know who you are, would you give a minute to tell us who you are? Give a little flip book life thing, or not?
Yeah. So I am the 2021 president of the Charlottesville Area Association of Realtors, the broker owner of Keller Williams Alliance and its partner companies, and citizen of Charlottesville for the last decade.
And you came from a different profession before you came here, right?
I worked in healthcare for many years.
There you go.
Decades, and also sold real estate back in Los Angeles way back in time.
So you're from L.A. That's what I was trying
to
get.
He's an L.A. guy.
He's an L.A. dude, right? You got like a surfboard on that shirt somewhere?
I do, and that's actually a piece of sporting equipment I used.
I'm about to say, do you surf?
Now, no.
He bikes a lot. He rides a bicycle a lot.
I know he does. I've been trying to.
One fractured hip from the old person's home, so
we got it.
Do things cautiously.
Enough said. Let's move on. Totally understand where you're at. Totally understand. So, Quinton, this is your time.
State of the Union.
At State of the Union, you've been on a ton of media lately. I think you saved the best for last, is what I'm thinking. I think you mentioned this morning you were on the radio and you've been in newspapers and on TV and all that fun stuff. So give us your spiel. Give us the market assessment from 2020 in the fourth quarter.
It's been a lot of fun, and it's proof that you don't have to be an expert at anything to get on the news.
Hello. Hello.
You did get real estate above the fold in the Daily Progress. How about some props for QB for doing that?
Talk about that. How did that happen?
It was just a good conversation. You know, the real estate market is of interest to everybody.
Yeah.
And I think it stands out more and more in the pandemic, where you had so many industries that shrunk, and yet real estate boomed. And so there's a lot of really smart people looking into the hows and whys of that. And in terms of our overall goals as a community and local governments, how do we leverage that, keep that going, and get closer to things that have been goals for many, many years?
I would agree with that. So give us your spiel, Mr. President.
The fourth quarter saw more of the same from 2020. I think we went into the pandemic expecting real estate to come to a halt. And we did have a few weeks of a dip, but then our area just continued to boom. And if you look at this report, you'll see that the median price went up, the number of sales as well as the volume of money they represent climbed. Mortgage rates, interestingly enough, went down when we thought there was no way for them to go down. And we saw a big move in sales in the outlying counties of the CAAR footprint away from the center. Not that anybody did poorly. Everybody did well. But there's a lot of interesting conversation about the pandemic pushing us more into virtual workspaces and really embracing some technologies that have been around for a long time, but have not had their pride of place like they do nowadays. If you look at Nelson County in the fourth quarter report as an example, a third of all of the gains in the fourth quarter of 2020 happened because of Nelson County.
Yeah.
And that's an incredible bump. And I've been reaching out to different brokers there and had some brief conversations as to the hows and whys of that. And it's a combination of housing values climbing so that sellers in Nelson felt comfortable putting their house on the market. They could get what they needed out of that sale, as well as an increased access to broadband and an opportunity for virtual workspaces and a desire for separate homes. And I think as you go through a lot of the conversations that we've had with individual buyers and sellers, this move towards seeing our homes as a more central part of our life and not just sort of our physical parking garage that we come and go from to live our life, but actually living in our homes has changed how we picture them, the things that we desire, and the opportunity for the general public to really outline their needs and wants in a way that we have not done in the past.
So as you were talking, Quinton, you can't see the feed, right? And for the folks that are listening, and we'll dump this into the feed so everybody can take a look at it. But what our awesome director was doing is he was bouncing these two images back and forth, talking about where the increases were in value and in other words where prices increased and that. And you're 100% right. Nelson County has really been a stellar from a percentage perspective. As you know, I'm the treasurer of the Thomas Jefferson Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission. Too many Thomas Jeffersons in there. And we actually ended up a meeting going to wee hours of the night last night, and a lot of the conversation was focused around Nelson County and what it was doing, because we have the two elected officials there from Nelson County, and and the other jurisdictions were trying to figure out what they were doing, how they can help, and so forth and so on, which is really awesome stuff. And they're open to the public, so anybody wishes to join us virtually, please do it. It always amazes me. I think Sean Tubbs and maybe one other person was of the public listening to it yesterday. So shout out to Sean. He's a bit of a rock star.
Sean's great.
Bit of a rock star. But so what do you see going on out in the outlining areas? Let's say green. Right. Where do you think green is going to go? Where it went, and where do you think green's going? Because we talk about this on the show all the time. Is where is the next whatever?
Where's the next Crozet? Is what we
or
call
the
it.
next Nelson?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there's two important conversations that happen as a result of these reports, particularly in the world we live in. And one conversation that we can have next has to do with when you see people moving. What can we figure out about these increase in sales to help inform development so that we're creating products that are actually meeting the needs of the folks that are seeking to purchase? We talk about broadband a lot.
Yeah, that's the first, right?
It's an example anyway. In the new developments and in the zoning and in the things that we're doing to promote construction and affordable housing, is broadband a central theme to that in the same way power and water is? So I think there's a whole conversation that can happen that can inform us for years to come, and can certainly inform local legislation and developers as to where to spend dollars about why we're seeing the numbers we see.
So it's
and
good.
And that's an important piece. Another piece that I think we can have a conversation about is, what does this mean in the short term? We have another stimulus package that's in the works, and we have foreclosure and eviction moratoriums that are going to have to be lifted soon. And what does this mean for the folks that are already in a home and their long-term home values? And so I think there's two sorts of conversations we can have about these numbers.
Well, have we had the conversation yet about the inventory pinch, where people are moving to, and how that's going to impact 2021, even in the next 6 months?
a chemistry starting, because I was just
Yeah.
going to ask the question
What his take is.
what his take was on,
Yeah.
and particularly on the article that actually Quinton sent me from Realtor magazine, where the number 2 and number 3 retirement locations in 2020 was Charlottesville and then Waynesboro.
Charlottesville Metro, Waynesboro Metro.
That's exactly
Retirees are relocating here. Second most frequent Charlottesville Metro in the country. Third most Waynesboro Metro. So, dude, Quinton, you're a lot smarter than us here. You got a hell of a lot of demand coming here. You got a hell of a lot of demand. People trying to come to this area. The retirees, for example, you just referenced, Keith. Where's everyone going to go? Where are they going to move to?
Well, let's talk about demand for a second. We talk about demand in the pandemic like it just suddenly happened, and that's a misnomer.
That's exactly right.
If you go back to the time of the crash and you start moving forward in time, a lot of our energy in the market and a lot of the raising in values is a result of us not building enough homes to meet the demand or even come close to meeting the demand for a decade. And so the fact that it suddenly became more acute is not really just a function of the pandemic. So we've had 9-10 years of underbuilding and underdeveloping. The pandemic and the push for people to move and the opportunity for people to live in a place that is geographically separate from their workplace has made that more acute, but it didn't just happen last year. And so I think that's an important piece to remember. If you look at how much inventory we need to create, it's going to take us a while to catch up. We're probably not going to see these changes happen quickly. I think you're also seeing just a really low number of houses on the market that is acute that we want to be sure we're addressing in the 3, 6, 9, 12 months to come so that it does not continue to be a problem. And I think that's a question that weaves in local government, it weaves in funding sources and financing, it weaves in cost of construction, and it weaves in developers. And so it will take a partnership of all those entities to start to make a bigger dent so that we don't see this 1.7 months worth of inventory get even lower.
Can I paint the picture and throw it to you?
Sure.
Of what's happening? And I'm going to paint this picture in like 6th grade level. Okay, for everybody that's watching.
That's about 4 grades higher than Quinton and
I'm
I,
going to do
but-
this at a 6th grade level.
Okay, go.
We have generationally low interest rates that are spurring buyer demand. We got retirees that are moving to Waynesboro and Charlottesville at clips that are at the 2nd and 3rd greatest levels in the country. We have 10.2 square miles in the city and less than 5% of developable land in Albemarle County. We have limited new construction going on the market. We have cost of goods for new construction going through the roof. We have subcontractors that do work at new construction, not plentiful. There's not enough of them, right? So all these things are colliding at exactly the same time. I see this problem being exasperated over the next 12 to 18 months, not unexasperated.
And then you have to add time into that, right? So what Quinton's talking about is lack of new product, new homes, right? I believe that's what Quinton's talking about. And the process just takes forever. We're going to talk later on the back end of the show about the telethon and the land trust, but just to tap them into that a little bit, just to put a mental picture on it, we're trying to raise $150,000 to acquire the land. And just put a little context, acquire the land and his infrastructure, that's total number in that end of it. It's just not the full acquisition of the land. But we now need to go through the approval process of the city, which it's going to take months.
Ain't easy.
And months. Well, I'm super encouraged with Chip coming in, and he's going to bring the right people in, and hopefully we'll go from more of a red tape to a green tape kind of thing. But I do want to just quote a quick number to echo what Quinton has said. Back in 2008, 2009, I can't remember which year, the builders nationwide were producing roughly 2 million units. Immediately after the crash, it went down to 500, and it's only been incrementally growing at a very anemic rate. I believe 2020 somewhere was around 1.3, something something like that. So we have not been producing.
We've never caught up. It's
We have
snowballed for over a decade.
It's snowballed for over a decade.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
But I want to push back on what you said for a little bit, Jerry, because I think you painted a really dark picture. And one of the things that we're seeing, like if you dig into these numbers, and part of what is the opportunity to spread the geography of where we live.
Sure.
And so you're correct. Like prices are getting high and they're pricing some people out, and we've seen a lot of value increase, and there's a lot of demand. But if we have an opportunity now where developers can build in areas with more space,
That's smart.
with the appropriate
Infrastructure.
connections virtually and electronically, with a connection to public transit. If you can get to the train station for your once a month trip to DC, where you have to show up in person, our geographical requirement for where these development goes quadruples, triples, goes up by 5.
That's smart.
Because we're no longer wedded directly to that space.
So
Let's assume that's true for a second. And
that
let's
is true.
assume that happens. That could also relieve some pressure on the housing market
That's
central
exactly
to UVA and in that close area around Albemarle for a lot of folks that cannot work virtually and are attached geographically. And maybe if we can do those well, and I say this like I'm an expert on this, so please let's not anybody believe I'm an expert. But if our greater localities, not just an individual one, but working in concert, can do this well, we have an opportunity to create affordable housing and inventory opportunities in the places where people need them.
Okay, so that's brilliant. That's brilliant. You know what that's called? That's called brand positioning.
Yep.
In my world. So his counter argument to my negative picture that he said was the geographical territory is expanding. I'm going to put this at a 6th grade level. He's saying the territory around Charlottesville is expanding from a value and demand standpoint. So now you can live 30 miles away from Charlottesville, and realtors and developers and the whole supply chain have more land that they can create inventory on. That's what he's saying.
Well, that is correct. I want to go back a little bit to the broadband thing because what happened last night and has been gradually happening in these discussions, and it's incremental. It's not a huge thing, but the words that are now being used around
Public utility.
well, not necessarily public, but what they're doing is they're using the word utility and broadband in concert. That's a big change. Folks were using it as a service or
Commodity.
Yeah. My point is that it's in the same discussion as other utilities. So to me, this was a huge thing. But as Quinton was talking, I took the time to run some numbers for the last 30 days from January 1 up until yesterday. Nelson County, and I think this echoes what everybody's talking about. Currently, just last month, there's 7 homes on the market in Nelson County, 31 in pending, but was interesting in the last 30 days, 34 homes closed in Nelson County on a medium sales price of $382, 20 days on market. Right? So that's single family detached, no new construction, our normal rotation that we do that we look at to keep things kind of a little consistent in the looking at numbers. But that's a huge increase. I didn't look at what it was last year or 19 or 18, but I guarantee it wasn't those kind of numbers.
Yeah.
So that goes
To what he's saying.
And I think when you look at the fourth quarter report, so number 1 was Nelson County.
Yep.
Number 2 is Louisa.
Yep.
So the value proposition for where these are and the awareness that outlying areas are gaining, I think are positives. And I think they provide opportunities for us in terms of how we move forward, not just in fixing the inventory issue in terms of the lag, but also in the location, the services it offers, and who we're targeting as a client.
But the absorption rate out in Louisa County is nuts. Last 30 days, 9 on the market, 28 went pending. Same 30 days, 18 sold, 305 as a median sales price. Again, no new construction. And particularly in Louisa, it's important to pull out new construction because you would end up getting that number would be considerably higher because of Spring Creek.
Right.
But again, we're having this conversation. And I guess at the end of the day, what we struggle with 2 times a week to talk about this is how can we change that? Right? How can we as an industry, how can we as a community try to increase that? Of course, we're going to talk about the land trust on the back end.
I think one of the things he said was extremely something that we need to put in the cycle of conversation is we just need to prioritize the land from a larger radius away from Charlottesville that we've been doing.
Yeah, but I work in all these jurisdictions all the time. Been doing it for 30 years, and the same struggles that, transportation, schools, all that stuff is still broadband is still there, right? So that it's just that discussion is just going to end up being had, on the outer sections. But it was interesting. Our report does not include Waynesboro or Augusta, right? Is that correct, Mr. President?
Correct. That is correct.
Same 30 days, no new construction. 31 homes are active. 97 are in pending.
Jesus.
89 has sold. 250 is the median sales price. So that's where the buyers are going.
One of the things, too, I would like to point out, because I don't want to sound like no new construction is happening. If you look at 2020 as a whole, I'm going to use Albemarle County as an example, 1 out of every 5 homes that sold, a touch over that, was new construction.
Yeah.
So developers have been working on this. New construction has been happening. Green opened a subdivision, and their numbers went through the roof until everything was sold out. So it has been happening. We just need to pick up the pace and also be thoughtful about where we're building it and how. Because some of the limitations of geography can be overcome with the right qualifiers in the development.
And that's why it's very important for folks to get engaged in this process.
Super important.
And I'm a bit of a volaholic in this stuff. I spend a little bit too much time. I mean, I actually watched the city. I don't know how many people, other than Neil and maybe a dozen people, I don't know that for a fact, watched the city's work session on the budget. But if you take the opportunity and do that and have
that one was particularly important because the conversation is now of not doing the West Main Streetscape project.
And
the conversation is also not doing the garage because Lloyd got off his position and Lloyd said, I'm now open-minded to maybe not doing it. Did you see that?
I saw that. I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
But
that was 2 important pieces.
And later on...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead, Quinton. You're the guest. You're in charge.
I think another piece, Neil Williamson from Free Enterprise Forum, super smart guy, really knows what's going on in our local government.
He's watching.
He posted an article, and I think the other thing we have an opportunity to overcome with this expansion of geography is people in existing communities that don't want the construction next door. So I think there's a lot of ways to balance the individual wants and needs while still achieving this if we really embrace what we've seen people moving towards and create communities that meet that. Our real estate industry as realtors is a prime example of how well that can work. We thought we were going to shut down, and what ended up happening was we embraced virtual tours. We embraced technology. We did electronic signings. Our closing companies did an astonishing job embracing that, keeping people safe, and using the technology to promote the industry. And we did not suffer in the way a lot of people have suffered as the pandemic has rolled out. If we can apply those same themes as we move forward in construction, in zoning, in what land is and is not developable, that's not even a real word. What land you'll
get a pass there, Quinton.
Developed. I think we have an opportunity to maybe not catch up, but make some real progress in the 1 to 4 years ahead.
So I can't remember the young lady's name, but in this little chat that was going on Jerry's feed in reference to the
land trust,
the
telethon.
the telethon. Thank you. I chimed in on it. Most people don't know about this organization, and I happen to chair it. It's called the Regional Housing Partnership, and everything Quinton is talking about. I made the motion actually 3 years ago to create this because the commission, the Planning District Commission, is uniquely situated to do this because we have all 6 jurisdictions at the table. And what we did is we created what I call the 4 pillars of a healthy housing system. And I think this is exactly what Quinton is talking about, where we sit at this table and we have every single one of the stakeholders at the table, the private sector, the public sector, the nonprofits in the affordable housing, The most important factor here is we have the people who we serve, right? The actual renters, the actual homeowners in it, and it's amazing. Every time they open up their mouth, I just get super smart, because it's just unbelievable. I learn something. But the other part of it is we have UVA at the table, which is that other 10 elephant, but it's open to the public, and nobody ever shows up. And we have this conversation. So please.
You know what you guys should do? I mean,
I think hire a branding company to go.
You should just stream these sessions on the I Love CVille Network. The reason no one is showing up is because these things are in the middle of the day. These are during the work week, and people have lives and kids
last night starts
and
at
jobs.
7 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
so.
Stream it in approachable settings, and people will be able to engage with it. If you build it, they will come. Kevin Costner, Field of Dreams.
Yeah. Yes, Jonas Smith. I have to research that because there's these are public bodies and there's processes for that. So I just don't know how that works. But I made a note. I'm going to talk to the new executive director over there.
I got questions coming in for Quinton. Quinton is doing a hell of a job giving commentary on this show while out like streaming and watching the feed. He's like responding to Neil Williamson, and he's answering Michael Plecker's question while doing this interview. I'm quite impressed here, Quinton.
And I'm just drinking a cup of coffee.
I got other questions coming in here for him though. This question is coming in from the Barbersville area. This is a good question for you, Quinton. How do you sell, or how do you propose that someone is going to sell their home if they're not in a strong broadband area or access to broadband? And that's a question for both Quinton and Keith.
You tackle it first, Quinton.
Well, it's not fun. We would certainly prefer there was broadband. But please understand that there is a subset of buyers that is not their priority.
That's true.
Just because there's been a shift, there are still many people where geographical location and proximity to their workplace has the higher priority over broadband. And so, yes, I would prefer there was broadband, and things like Ting and I think it's Firefly have been working really hard to get out to many, many areas. And in some, it's just not going to be a possibility because they're too far out still. There are still buyers for that. We're not seeing those houses sit there when they're good houses that are appropriately priced and well marketed just because of the lack of broadband.
Well, I'll put context to that. I have a particular client right now, retiree, that is the lowest thing on their priority list. That I think where we're looking, as long as they could get 3G on their phone, they're good. Right? That's for FaceTime and the grandkids. That's really all they do. They need it for.
Nice.
So
nice.
To put context to what Mr. President of CAAR is saying, who's multitasking, because I could see.
All right, he's responding to Michael Plecker. I just liked his comment to Michael Plecker. I'm quite impressed here. Another question for both you guys.
Sure.
This question is about teardowns.
Oh.
Will we see in the next 12 to 24 months teardowns and rebuilds of new construction?
You want to start with that one, Quinton, or you want me to tackle it?
No, I think that's yours.
So this is not Seattle. This is not Portland. I don't think the numbers are up at that particular point at this point. You just got to do the math. If you're buying something in Belmont for $300,000-$400,000, I mean,
you're not going to tear that down.
I mean, I'll just pull it right here. Real numbers. There's 8 homes in the city of Charlottesville for sale. The cheapest is the 219 we talked about the other day.
There's one, like I said, in the city of Charlottesville, going to the courthouse steps next week.
Yeah.
$50K at the courthouse steps.
Yeah, so that would be something if you can
That's
get
a teardown.
If you can get it for that. So the
Yeah.
numbers have got to work. But, if you're buying something in the $300,000 to $400,000 price range, then you got to spend 50, 75 grand to tear it down because that's what you got to do. Then you got to build on top
Numbers
of it
don't make sense.
at $200 a square foot. It just doesn't make sense,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, but I will tell you that I've seen that happen at Lake Monticello recently, and the waterfront lots. Some of the homes that were built in started in 68, so late 60s, early 70s.
The only place I can see this working in the city of Charlottesville from a price point standpoint is in the 10th and Page neighborhood, the Fifeville neighborhood, and maybe the Prospect neighborhood from the teardowns and the rebuilds.
Well, first of all, there's nothing on market in that
Right,
price point. But we'll do
That's
that.
the problem. How about this comment from Dr. Lisa Sturdivant?
Oh, Lisa's watching.
You ready for this? She posted this. Quinton, with an estimated, she posted this on her page, with an estimated 2.7 million mortgages in forbearance nationally, there have been concerns that when the forbearance period ends, we may see a surge of foreclosures flooding the market. However, there are no signs that foreclosures will be a big problem in the housing market in 2021. That's her take.
So before you answer that, Quinton, that literally I was going to reach out to Lisa after the show because that's a topic that I want to talk next week about.
I'll tag her on the feed. She's
go ahead,
she's
Quinton.
live now. I'll tag her on the feed and see if we can get her watching to hear Quinton's answer.
Well, one, I get the answer that I'm going to give from Lisa and her partners at the National Association. Super smart, knows way more about this than I do.
Sure.
But we have a reflex because most of us remember the 2009 market crash, and so we worry when we hear about forbearance that suddenly there's going to be millions of foreclosures across the country. What people are not thinking of is that in the 2009 crash, these houses went underwater because the housing value plummeted. The vast majority of people that are in homes in forbearance are responding to surveys that they can catch up, and the ones that are worried about it now have a home that is worth more than it was when we entered the pandemic because of how well the real estate market has done. So their opportunity to refinance, to sell without losing their shirt, there's a lot more opportunities to avoid that foreclosure and avoid that effect on the market than there was in 2009.
Absolutely. You know, folks like Lisa, Dr. Yoon, these are all smart folks. We at least I do, and I know you do. We track everything that they write, everything that they're saying. And this is not 2008. This is not 2009. But I really want to bring Lisa back on to talk about this.
I just tagged her
because she's
See if
super
she'll hop
great.
over here.
She's super great at doing this in a very approachable, and understandable way. But here's something, because we were all involved in this, right, back in the day. The ones that have a little bit extra gray hair on it, been through this. The trick to this and the conversation that we have to have with our clients, if they are starting to feel a little uncomfortable about this and concerned about it, address it now. The problem is once you go from, hey, let's try to help you sell, let's come up with a solution for you, but once it starts rolling into the process, it's almost impossible to walk it back. So in other words, once it starts rolling in the foreclosure process, you want to get this long before that. Reach out to your servicer, your loan servicer, find out what your options are. I have family members that I'm counseling on this, and my number one comment, so look, if you get to the point that you really think you can't do this now. Let's have this conversation now and have fixes now, because as Quinton was saying, you can turn around and sell these and maybe net some cash. It may not be the best of the perfect world, but at least you're not where you were before. There's buyers out there looking to buy. So
I love it. Beth Hyder giving you props. Quinton has done a great job this week. Thank you, QB. That's from Beth Hyder, who's watching over at Hillsdale. How about to springboard off Michael Plecker's comment, how do we navigate the crossroads? And let's use Crozet as an example. We were talking about this yesterday on the show. Crozet is extremely popular in part because the schools are so good. How do we navigate this crossroads, Quinton? A popular area because of good schools that is growing from a real estate development standpoint, and those schools potentially getting overcrowded, which could impact the quality of the school and the allure for people to move to that area.
Well, I think I have two answers for you on that. One answer is local and state governments always have to move forward with community infrastructure such as schools, such as education. Again, virtual opportunities, if we embrace them as a state and across the school systems, can help alleviate some of this pressure. Yes, I know that a lot of Crozet is built on the value of their school system, and nobody wants to see that diminish. However, now a lot of the resistance there has been from that, has been, as per Neil's article, of we like the lifestyle we've got, we like the way our neighborhood looks, and we don't want it to change. I can understand that sentiment, but we have now an opportunity to have communities that are in any geography. We've got to embrace that and move forward. I don't want to try and speak to education systems as though I know anything about how to make them work, because I do not. So what I do want to do is, since we are persons of influence, I want to keep saying the words affordable housing. I want to keep saying the words construction, and I want to keep saying the words equity, so that it continues in the conversation, so that smarter people do join in and help fix the things I get wrong and fill in the gaps that I cannot fill.
Good answer, Quinton. So how about that? Can we talk the word affordable, Keith?
Man,
because I went into
I just literally wrote that word down, and this is something.
Did you see the rabbit hole that happened?
I saw the rabbit hole that happened, and this is it's a tough word to get quotations around, right? And it means different things to different people.
Well, how do you guys define it at the Land Trust?
So we define it by, so there is a federal HUD definition, and then it's 80% AMI and below, right? It's area medium income and below, and
so that's the definition, right?
Well, but it's not. See, and that's the point. And everybody thinks about it differently. And literally, the first meeting I chaired on the Regional Housing Partnership, I threw out there and I said, guys, we as a region, and it's coming back up around at the next meeting. They just don't know about it yet, or maybe they do now. We've got to define this, right? And maybe what we're talking about is more workforce housing than affordable. Right? And is affordable a different definition, right? We have to work out what's a definition for us as a region. And the definition for affordable for Savannah is different than Charlottesville, than Albemarle, than Nelson, than Greene, and then on the other side of the mountain possibly. So it's a super difficult question to answer. The bottom line is to talk about that feed that went on there. The bottom line is we're going to have the ability to produce 11 units, and depending on how much money we raise, so if we raise more money than this 150, we can drive the sales price down from this 215. I personally want to get it below 200,000. I want to get it substantially below 200,000. Right. The more cash we raise, the less the unit's going to sell, right? Sure. At this particular point in time. But at the end of the day, there's nothing available.
That's why I use the condo as a comp off High Street. Because the condo off High Street, I thought was a fair comp, because the person who purchases that condo doesn't own the land either. And the condo has an ask of $240,000.
You've taken that from my explanation.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult explanation
it is.
To do, because all I use that explanation is it's a type of a sale, right?
Right.
You have fee simple.
It's a good example.
Correct. So where we own the land, or the land trust owns the land, and this keeps it forever affordable. That's the key here. That's what makes what we do at the Land Trust very different than some of the other things. And plus, with this partnership that we're about ready to consummate with PH, our ability to serve folks at a much lower AMI just goes through the roof. And that's ultimately what our goal is. But, we got to work with what we have at the moment. And unfortunately, we just only have so much capital available to do this.
Can I throw this to Quinton?
Sure.
Quinton, just the economics behind adding even inventory that's at the 200 to 215 price point, even if people don't think it's affordable to them, adding inventory to the market and the trickle-down impact it does for creating other opportunities across the economic pay scale.
Well, I think we have to think about this. Yes, we need a broad definition of affordable housing. And that's going to mean different things to different groups. Habitat has one definition,
Sure.
Land Trust has another, federal government has another. In the end, the only definition that matters is what's affordable to that buyer when we're talking about buyers that have not
So
had
I'm
an
going to interrupt
opportunity.
you for a second, Quinton. This is the same conversation I've been having with people about the unemployment rate dropping, right? And the person who's unemployed at the moment, this is a recession. This is a depression. It's the same conversation that you have with affordable housing. And I apologize to interrupt you, Quinton, but I wanted to get that out.
And I want to couch this conversation in affordable housing with some of our statistics from CAAR. So if you look back in 2019, houses that cost $400,000 or more, we sold 1,231 of them. In 2020, houses that cost $400,000 or more, we sold 1,506.
Yeah.
Great stat.
When you couple that with the idea that 1 out of 5 homes was new construction, we're building more expensive homes that we're selling in Albemarle. If you look in that same time frame, for the 300 to 400,000, we created some inventory there. In 2018, we sold 780. In 2019, we sold 935. And then in 2020, we sold 988. So if you can't afford 500,000, but you could afford 350, you had more options as time moved forward. But now let's move to the 200 to 300,000 range. In 2019, we sold 1,094. In 2020, we sold 1,100. I'm sorry, in 2018, we sold 1,094. In 2019, we sold 1,100, so just 6 more. And in 2020, we sold 1,106. So just 6 more again. So if you're looking at those bars and how they rise, creating any inventory in the 200 to 300,000 range is a meaningful step towards affordability in our local market to the people that live and work here. In the 200 to 300,000 range on a mortgage, that is a mortgage that is less than the average price of rent.
Yep.
And I think we get wrapped up sometimes misunderstanding or getting stuck with generational wealth. We talk about generational wealth. I want it to happen. But even if you can move from your Charlottesville 2-bedroom rental at $1,200 a month and make a payment of about $1,100 a month to own a $275,000 home, at the end of 20 years, you will have accumulated somewhere around $150,000 in equity and money saved versus renting.
And thank you for saying that, because that's one of the things that we push with the land trust. Some folks say, well, it's only the house, and what about the land? The bottom line is that math still works for that particular, for the structure, right?
Yeah.
And this person, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, when they go sell, or this family will reap in that revenue, that capital, or that generational wealth, or whatever. And what's so important about it is the next buyer has to be the same thing.
Right.
And I'll tell you for the Nassau Street and what I've been working on the land trust, I've been so geeked out. I've been doing that since 2016 to get this far.
Your passion
Right.
has spread to me. I find it contagious.
Well, thank you.
And you're an evangelist for this.
Okay. Did you just call me Pat?
And,
Pat, whatever.
And I've looked up a bunch of numbers
What am I
on
now?
this over the
Hold it.
last
I just got
months.
called an evangelist. I can't let that go.
Quinton, let me throw this to you. How do you build the housing that you're talking about in the 175 to 275 price point when the dirt is so expensive and the cost of construction is going up?
So the only way, and I'm going to have to jump in on this because this is my wheelhouse. The only way that's going to happen is the community needs to get involved, needs to donate, needs to give money to this organization, the local government.
To the telethon.
To the telethon.
Yeah.
But that's the whole reason we created this regional housing partnership. It takes all these 4 pillars, and if they're not at the table, one entity cannot do it on its own.
I 1,000% agree with you, because it would seem to me, you guys are the experts, I'm just the sixth grader here, Quinton. It would seem to me that the current market conditions are going to prevent much more growth in the 175, 275 price point from a new construction standpoint.
Yes, that's true. And yes, that's true in certain circumstances. I support what the Land Trust is doing, and I would love to see 11 homes come on the market that are between 200,000 and 300,000 close into the city, because there are people out there that could not otherwise live and own the home. I also think we have to look at some local issues that surround zoning. The price of the land has to do with how much house you can put on it and how many people can live there. There's opportunities that, again, the Free Enterprise Forum, if you read them, they speak to this consistently. And CAAR as an association has statements about this in our Code of Public Policy. And so it's not just me speaking, it's these other groups speaking as well. There is opportunity in how we zone and what we allow to make that price of a patch of dirt less of an issue in the total cost of the house.
Okay, so what he's basically saying here, I'm trying to put this at the sixth grade level for those that are not in the game. You guys are in the game. You guys are super smart. What he's basically saying is, over half the land, for example, over half the land in Charlottesville is zoned R1, which is a single-family detached home. And if developers are doing any kind of speculating or creating new construction, the current zoning encourages them to do single-family detached homes, which is a house for a family, as opposed to a dense situation like a duplex or townhomes. And if you build a duplex or townhomes, it makes the land price less of an issue.
So this is why I've been part of a cohort, national cohort, that actually the city of Charlottesville sent me out in the 3 or 4 years ago, and I've been doing it on my own expense after that. But the state of Oregon and Washington Oregon's already adopted it, but doing this missing middle, and I know Neil's been talking about this forever. So, and they have this residential infill program,
Yeah.
which basically you take your Belmont
R.I.P.
RIP. Yeah, I tried not to say
R.I.P.
And
Bev says it's Pat Robertson.
Pat Robertson.
Yeah, the evangelist.
I look like Pat Robertson.
No, remember the evangelist you were looking for?
Pat Robertson.
Pat
no.
Robertson.
What was the other one? Tammy Faye.
This is where Quinton Beckham it says, shame, Jerry, you got Keith Smith off track. That's what Quinton Beckham is thinking right now.
So what's the one? Tammy Faye. What was the one in the 80s? Come on.
I have no idea. Quinton, do you know?
He knows.
I'm going to go make coffee. And
No, don't do that. This is important.
Stay, Quinton.
This is
Stay,
important.
Quinton.
This is important,
Stay,
man.
Quinton.
No, but what they have done out there, and really I've been trying to promote this over here, is that you would take a home on Alta Vista in Belmont. It's got an alleyway in the back, and you can put up in Portland, in Portland, you could put up to 4 units on that. So what you're doing is you're increasing your density on the same amount of ground. You're smiling. This is not good.
I love the show.
The same.
Multiple people, including Nikki Chambliss and Nikki Tammy Faye Baker.
Tammy Faye Baker. But what is her husband's name?
Jimmy Swaggart.
Jimmy Swaggart.
That's someone else
Thank
said
you.
it. That's why I love this show.
Thank you, Jimmy Swaggart.
I have no idea.
I remember what was the whole thing with the cry
I
and
don't know who these people are.
You're such a kid.
Do you know who these people are, Judah?
You're such a
I
kid.
have no idea who these people are.
How?
Oh, yeah. I know who these people are. There's a reason you don't know about them today.
That's exactly my point.
What was the point?
It's okay. When you grow up, we'll tell you.
Tell me the point.
No, just kidding around. That's all.
I think there's a lot of opportunity to allow less expensive housing on the land we've got.
That's exactly right.
If you look at the full spectrum, it's not just about the density of zoning. It's also about the minimum house size that is allowed. It's about the setbacks, and it's about the access. And so there are a variety of levers that local government can pull and push to allow these to go forward in a way that keep prices in a more affordable range.
So I steal this, what was it? Amateurs borrow Excuse me, professionals borrow, amateurs steal. So I'm going to steal from my dear friend.
Is this Silver Buckshot?
Silver Buckshot.
Yeah.
Robert Liberty out in.
He's come on the show?
He's come on the show. He was instrumental in bringing this RIP to Oregon. And one of the things that he kept on saying is there's not a silver bullet. There's not one fix to this. It's the buckshot. In our case, in Land Trust's case, we might fill a couple of those things, but it requires everything else for the cause, this healthy housing system and all these other 4 pillars that hold that up. But I'm going to bring him back on.
You should. He was amazing.
Because, all this, when you start talking about increasing density on a single-family detached lot, what about...
City of Charlottesville can't do this, though. It's a Dillon rule state. It's got to go to Richmond and the delegates, right?
By the way, it was the same in Oregon.
Yeah.
They actually had to do this, even though it's a home rule state, they had to do it at the state level before it could migrate itself down to the city.
So it would take somebody like Sally Hudson
It would take
to
somebody
help push this.
It would take somebody like Sally Hudson, and then the local jurisdictions can adopt it. But the point is that because I originally said, oh my God, the community must have lost its mind because of transportation and schools. And he says it was funny that it created this YIMBYism thing instead of this NIMBYism thing, which yes in my backyard versus no in my backyard. And apparently, it at least in Portland, it did not really impact things that much. Now, very different scenario, right? You can get on a bike and go anywhere in Portland or Seattle. We're not quite there yet on that.
Question for Quinton. Sarah Hill Buczynski. Is local government pushing or pulling any of these levers to help?
I think that they have made efforts to do so. I certainly have seen plans move forward that have hit unexpected roadblocks.
Can you tell us examples? Okay.
No. And I mean, I can, but I think that's a different sidetrack. And there has to be some community support in that. So I do believe that there have been efforts to push and pull levers. They certainly have not made the impact we want, and there's certainly room to improve on that. I think with what we've seen in the pandemic this last year, what we're seeing happen in this coming year, we need to step back and look at everything afresh, because our ability to affect change, the levers are different. Sometimes they're located in different areas, and the opportunities are greater.
So I need to jump in on here because this is really my wheelhouse because I'm around these local officials all the time. I just want to say to answer that particular question. The county of Louisa, which for decades didn't want to talk housing, couldn't care less about it, is actually donating land, the physical county, donating land to a consortium of nonprofits and for-profits to go ahead and create affordable housing in Louisa near Zion's Crossroads.
How much did Fitzgerald Barnes have to do with that?
Let's say every one of the...
All the soups?
All the soups on the... And
this sounds like a Fitz.
They all were involved in it,
Okay.
and they all are involved in it, and they're promoting it aggressively, and they're reaching out to the commission. They're reaching out
That's
to.
a no-brainer.
They're reaching out there. My point is these jurisdictions are realizing, they're finally realizing after years of, frankly, me beating them over the head.
That they could ride the coattails of Charlottesville and capitalize on the demand that's coming to the city of Charlottesville and utilize that demand to grow economic activity in their regions.
So I'm going to put it differently.
Is that what you're going to say?
No, I was not going to say that.
You were going to say that.
I was not going to
What were
say
you
that.
gonna say?
What I was going to say, they've realized that it's important for them to focus on affordable housing and housing, right? Not to just say, well, this is a Charlottesville problem, this is an Albemarle problem. They are realizing, and I think to go speak to your point and Quinton's point, is that these outer jurisdictions are now going, okay. I mean,
if I was an outer jurisdiction, Jesse Rutherford, yeah.
Jesse last night was
Yeah.
was Nelson County is going to aggressively figure out how it can also do similar to what Louise has done. So to answer Sarah's question, these jurisdictions, after years and years of conversation, are finally coming around to it. Here's the problem.
It's taken a long time.
No, they don't have the capital now. So that's why this telethon is so important, right? Conversations I have with them, look, capital we'll figure out, right? We can always figure that out.
Just give us the
Green
tape.
Turn that red tape to green tape.
tape.
There you go. Sorry, Quinton, we went off on the sidetrack.
We got Susan Simar coming here.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
What time?
We got
Well, we got 10 minutes.
Well, I got a contractor coming here at noon, and we got a lot to cover.
Well, you didn't tell me about that in our pre-production meeting.
I'll throw this to you, Quinton. Get us out of here on anywhere you want to go, Quinton Beckham. You are.
Hey,
He's A plus.
Hey, man, I told you 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It looked like we did an hour.
Yeah, we
Thank
did
you.
an hour and change.
Thank you. I know that you've got a busy day, and I appreciate everything that you're doing.
Totally fine.
Anywhere you want to go, Quinton. Give us something good, Quinton. Give us something really good.
You know, I tell people all the time, one of the advantages of having your life shattered is that you only have to pick up the pieces you like.
Oh.
And I think as we look at ourselves as a community, and if we begin to think of ourselves in a more regional aspect and not city versus county, we have a lot of opportunity to sift through the pieces of the norms that have been shattered and only pick up the pieces that really bring us closer to our goals for affordable housing, for social and racial equity, and for moving forward a community that is inclusive, diverse, and has neighborhoods where people are invested. So I think there is great opportunity in the midst of all of these discussions that if we can hear all the voices, make a reasonable plan forward, and begin pushing it. And if people of influence, whether you have the answers or not, keep refocusing on this. These have impacts in many, many ways on our communities and on the people that probably have had the least opportunity for decades in creating a space where opportunity is more available, homeownership is more available. It's a cornerstone of how we operate in this country and in our local environment, and it has so many benefits. And those are both tangible and intangible. I was watching a recording of you where you actually cried listening to somebody talk about how this had changed their life, Jerry.
Yeah.
And one, I was impressed because you have something in that space in your chest where your heart ought to be.
Whoa.
And two, I say that in all fun. And two, I think those are the sorts of things that we're pushing for. This isn't just about realtors making money. It's not just about developers building homes. It's not just about creating a tax base. All those things can happen. It's also about building community where kids know their neighbors and where we live in places for more than 3 to 5 years at a shot, and we have neighborhoods that are cohesive and diverse and bound together.
I mean, that's a freaking sizzle reel right there. And how many people are giving them props right now? Nikki and Michael giving props. I'm going to give them props. How we started. One of the advantages of having your life shattered is you can pick up the pieces you like.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
Multiple
right.
people saying, we're going to steal that. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, it's if you haven't had your life shattered, you know, it's a big thing, but picking up the pieces. Quinton, I know you got to run. I want to say thank you. Your closing remarks were spot on.
Yep.
You know, one of the premises of what we started 134 shows ago on this was to talk more than just real estate, right? Talk more than what, you know, realtor stuff. Talk about what we give back and talk about making the community better. And I'll just kind of close on this real quick. Please DM me. Please join. Please attend these meetings. In today's world, it's so easy to do. You can sit in your pajamas and a cocktail or wear your whatever that shirt is Quinton is wearing.
I like the man's shirt. It's comfortable.
Whatever.
He's in his home office.
Whatever. And
It's right.
whatever. And, you know, and attend and learn. Every time I do this, I learn. And what will happen is once you start doing that, people will take notice and they will take you seriously when you open up, you know, when you say something. So, you know, it takes a lot of work, man. I tell you what, it took me 10 years to get UVA at the table. right? And it's just, you just got to be persistent about it and get engaged, get involved. Please, 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 please. Looking forward to see everybody's faces on the next public Zoom meetings.
There you go.
Hey, brother, thank you, man.
Hey, Quinton Beckham, you're A+ people.
Yes, sir.
You're A+ people. Love that dude. Quinton Beckham, you have a good day. A+ people right there. CAAR, that's a good president right there for CAAR.
They were all good. Tom was excellent.
Oh, I'm not marginalizing the other ones.
I mean, to give Tom a shout out, you can't, his second or third month of his presidency, all hell broke loose. So
that's all she wrote. Judah Wickower, Keith Smith, Jerry Miller. This is Real Talk on a Friday, guys. Thank you kindly for joining us on the I Love CVille Network.
Tune in next Friday, please.
Yeah, next Friday. Telethon, February
hours.
12th. Yeah. Judah, good work. Quinton Beckham, good work. Keith Smith, you guys have a good one.
Thank you.
Susan Steinmart, looking forward to that meeting.
In 5 minutes.
Take care. Bye-bye.
It is 11:15. Look at that. 11:15. How did we do today?